What's up, guys? Thanks for joining me today. Sorry about the lighting. It's a little dark in this room today. We are filming a little bit later at night. I just wanted to come to you guys and say this is essentially a reading vlog compiling my reactions to the 4 books in A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, starting with the novella and my summary on that, and then jumping into A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, followed by Good Girl, Bad Blood, and then, of course, As Good as Dead. I do want to announce here that this does have spoilers in it. It does go into me reacting to different portions of the book. I just thought this might be fun because I know this is like a very fan favorite series across the board with different age groups, and it's definitely been a big positive feedback in terms of how my friends in the book club have been responding to this book as well. So I just thought it would be fun to record these thoughts and emotions that I was feeling throughout the series of the books. And I would love to hear what you guys thought of the series as well. So if you do get a chance, please don't forget to subscribe and join our little book reading family here on this corner of the internet. And if you feel so kind to do so, definitely leave me your thoughts on what you thought of the book and your feedback as well. It's always so much fun to get other people's feedbacks who are also just as into reading and books as well. That being said, let's hop into the video. This is a long one, so I strongly suggest, depending on the time of day and what you're doing, definitely make sure you grab your coffee or your tea or your wine, whatever it is that you're having at this moment, and come join me for a long one. All right, guys, let's hop into it. Hey guys, so finally did it. Decided that I was going to read A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, the entire series, including the novella Killjoy. So I didn't get a chance to really record my reactions to Killjoy just because of the fact that I was driving while listening to the Audible version of this book, because my career does keep me on the road quite a bit and I go home to home for patient care. So I decided that I was going to go ahead and listen to this book and then film some of my thoughts on this. I loved this. I loved this. If this is any inclination of what Pip's character is going to be like throughout the series, I absolutely adore it. The way that she thinks, the way that her brain works, the way that she created this intense answer to a game that they're playing at their friend's house for murder mystery night, and the fact that she out-clues and out-solves the murder mystery than the hacks that actually wrote the game is absolutely incredible. I think that it was so much fun to read. And I really loved the cast as well. I don't know if these are the same friends that she's going to have throughout the book, but I really liked the camaraderie between 3 of the main characters that were described, which was, I think, Connor, Kara, and Pip. And then Jamie Reynolds, I recognize that name because I saw that that was the character that goes missing in Good Girl, Bad Blood, according to the back of the book. So really curious to see what that dynamic looks like. Ant sounds like the prankster of the group. He sounds like he's such a fun character too. I'm really excited to see how he plays a role in the rest of the books. I feel like he'll be really fun if he's comedic relief throughout the story. So I'm really excited to read about him. And to be quite honest, Lauren sounds like a little bit of a ditz, but she does seem like she's in a very, very serious relationship with the guy, because it sounds like all she ever wants to do is get her phone back throughout the whole night to be able to talk to him. So I wonder if we get to see a little bit more of her boyfriend and like that relationship as the story continues, and if that has a role in maybe even causing drama within the group in terms of like high school drama, because it sounds like Ant and Lauren may have had something at one point. And based on how the night was going, when she threads her arm through Ant's arm when she gets scared throughout the courses of the game as they're playing that night, that murder mystery, the vibe that I got is that maybe he's still into her and like she likes to feed on that energy. So kind of hard to tell, but it seems like Lauren is kind of the it girl of the group who needs all the attention, all the boys' attention, and that type of vibe. Ant seems like he's the prankster, jokester vibes, and it seems like Pip is kind of a little bit sidelined but also an important member of the group, and she's kind of the brainy one of the group and like the homework, the geeky one of the group. And I hate using that term, but that's what popped into my head. And then it seems like Kara might be kind of like the peacekeeper of the group. And then Connor might be like fun-loving, also maybe jock vibes. I couldn't really tell, but that was kind of the feeling I was getting from him. And like he's like very into the role playing and like really creating this experience for his friends, which I where I got that idea from. And then the other kid, I want to say his name was Bobby, or was that one of the characters? I can't remember. There's one more friend in their group. He's also a male character, very soft-spoken, very quiet. You don't hear him saying much throughout the game other than his like cue cards, but when he finally does speak, it has a lot of gravitas, a lot of weight to it. And so I wonder if he plays an important role throughout the series as well. But it was really fun getting introduced to this character and getting introduced to her friends and seeing how her brain works. So I think now that we know this is how she functions, the fact that like she ends the book like literally being like, oh, I see this guy outside. There's been so many jokes made about the murder of Sal and Andy, and like how Sal probably murdered Andy and then died. And then the entirety of the first book is obviously her trying to dig deeper into that murder. So it's really interesting to see. I'm very much looking forward to how all of this is going to play out in the next book, but I had a lot of fun reading it, and I'll keep you guys posted. And so given how much I enjoyed this book, I thought it might be fun to do a spoilers included, unfortunately, but reactionary video to all three of the rest of the books, and then put a capsule together just kind of documenting my thoughts on the A Good Girl's Guide to Murder series. But yeah, really enjoy this one. Strong 4 to 4.5 stars for me, and I'm really looking forward to the rest of the series. Bye guys. Good Girl's Guide to Murder. Unfortunately, I did end up listening to a lot of that book while I was driving to various patients' homes. So for obvious reasons, I did not record too much of that or my reactions in the car. So I was just going to do like a quick synopsis on that book.
Hey guys, so basically, obviously, A Good Girl's Guide to Murder is a fan favorite, popular for many people. It has very, very high ratings on Goodreads. It's been talked about on Book Talk, YouTube, everywhere really, and it's a fan favorite for many people. I decided that I wanted to do a reactions video to this series, starting with the novella Killjoy, which was actually released after these three books were originally released, and then we have A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, Good Girl, Bad Blood, and then As Good as Dead. For me personally, this book was amazing. Solid 4.5 stars for me. I wouldn't quite put it at that 5-star mark, but it was a 4.5 star for me. I really, really enjoyed it. There was just certain scenes in particular that I wanted to discuss and talk about. One of the scenes that I think really, really stood out to me, or one aspect of the book that really stood out to me, is how organized Pip is. Like, if you notice the way that she documents all of her findings, everything she thinks is going on, her suspect list, why she thinks people are suspects, it's just incredible. I also really enjoyed the moment when Pip finally says, oh, for sure, Sal did not murder Andy. Like, that scene was brilliant. The fact that she was able to go into Max Hastings' fake, not fake, but alternate Facebook account, find the pictures from that evening, see the timestamp, and realize that someone had to have been taking the photos because Max, Naomi, and everybody else was in the photos except for Sal, indicating that they were the ones that lied about where he was that night and that he was in fact telling the cops the truth, and then proceeded to figure out that, if they were to time everything from start to finish, from the murder to burying her to or sorry, not burying her, but from the murder to the point where the car switching and everything was going on, and then him being able to get back home within a span of that time frame of, what was it, I want to say 32 minutes or something, was absolutely impossible, because even running and trying to make it as fast as they could, Ravi and Pip still came in just shy of an hour, and that proving for sure that it could not have been Sal that committed the murder was awesome. Like, that entire sequence was just amazing. I also really like the fact that she keeps coming at Max, and she kind of figures out all these lies that he's told throughout the story plot. Naturally, having finished this book, I really don't like Max. So understandably, I was very excited about that. But finding the picture of Andy in his bedroom and realizing that he may have known her better than he said that she did, piecing together the timeline of when he last saw Sal, when he last saw Andy, I thought was really cool. I also love the fact that even though Naomi is like a prime suspect for Pip, and Naomi's family, basically the Wards, are basically like her adopted secondary family, and she sees Elliot Ward as a father figure, that Kara is like a sister to her, that even when Pip becomes obsessive and is like, I will see this through to the end, and goes to Naomi's house and Kara's house and literally confronts Naomi and Max, where Naomi opens up and kind of shares what happened during the car accident when Max was driving and they almost killed that guy who ended up permanently paralyzed. It was really nice to see that even though Kara wants to comfort her sister, she doesn't turn on Pip either. So I did really appreciate that relationship between the two of them. I have to say that in general, the final scenes were surprising to me. The fact that Elliot Ward was actually the one who killed Andy Bell, or not killed Andy Bell, but was one of the prime reasons that Andy was in the predicament that she was in that night, was really fascinating. I also think that as the father of two girls and having recently been widowed himself, the fact that he tries to put the fact that he has an inappropriate relationship with a student who's 16 years old on the 16-year-old girl, a little concerning. So I do think it was very fair for Elliot to go to jail for that. I also think it's really weird that he's harboring a girl that is a lookalike to Andy, but not actually Andy, and like creepily keeping her in a house and trying to take care of her when clearly that girl is not 100% there. So that was a little uncomfortable to read, but at least there was the added fact that he didn't kill the dog, right? Maybe. I don't know. There's not much that's redeemable for Elliot from my standpoint. Like the fact that he even threatened his daughter with her darkest, deepest secret, which will then plague her for the rest of her life, which potentially led to the murder of her best friend. And he's saying that he did it in order to be there for his daughter. A little concerning. Becca Bell being the one who actually murdered Andy, I think made a little bit more sense to me. The fact that, she confronts her sister and is like, hey, you are the reason I got raped that night. Is it true that you were selling these drugs to these kids? And Andy just being like, well, at least someone wanted you. Like, not a cool answer, Andy. Not a cool answer. So Becca kind of watching her asphyxiate and choke on her own vomit and die, I kind of understand where she was coming from. But I will also say Becca seems a little insane, especially when she decides that she's going to do the same thing to Pip. Like, that was a lot. But overall, I would say a very, very fun book to read. I did really like the storyline. I really love the banter between Pip and Ravi. I think that was super cute. I think the romance that Holly Jackson writes between those two characters was phenomenal to read, and it was really, really cute without being overly aggressive and definitely just a slight subplot to the story, but not the main part of the story. I also really enjoyed just the relationships between Pip and her family, like how close she is to her mom, how close she is to her dad. I also really appreciate the fact that even though there are some interesting topics being discussed in this book, racism, drug and alcohol abuse, children's abuse, inappropriate relationships, like kind of sort of pedophilia, honestly speaking, is a major part of the book without being overly aggressive to the point where the trigger warnings are so intense where I would say maybe don't read this book. I feel like it's done very subtly. It has a lot of connotation on society, and it speaks a lot to what's going on in the world right now. And I think it was a very fun, fast-paced way of doing a young adult book with some really interesting plot twists, really important topics to be discussed, but still within that young adult genre, because Pip, throughout the course of the book, is such a teenager. The way she reacts to things, her excitement, the choices that she makes. Her sleuthing, one of the sleuthing techniques that she obviously uses is to text one of the girls she interviewed as the other girl and ask questions while lying and saying her phone number changed. So things like that. Like, I think it had a very, very young adult vibe to it. I also love how much technology use there was in the book. It definitely shows that it was written for this time period. I mean, I really don't think she could have solved a lot of the components of the case without that technology aspect, which was fun to see. And I love the fact that throughout the entirety of this book, even though she's essentially obsessively trying to solve this murder and she's created this connection with one of the murder victim's siblings, she's still podcasting this whole thing, because at the end of the day, it's for a capsule school project. So I will say to anyone who is looking for a fun, fast-paced thriller that's not super overwhelming, but very interesting, keeps your attention, that A Good Girl's Guide to Murder was a ton of fun to read. I do apologize that I didn't get a lot of any of my reactions to this book, but I just wanted to share some of my thoughts here. But overall, definitely a solid read, would definitely recommend it, and I will catch you guys on the next one. Good Girl, Bad Blood. See you soon.
guys. So here we go. We're going to continue our journey through the A Good Girl's Guide to Murder series, and this is Good Girl, Bad Blood that we are still currently reading. I have about an hour and 9 minutes left in the podcast and the Audible, and then I usually like to listen and read together. We also have our lovely morning coffee, which you got to see with me. This is, of course, in my accessories video as well, but I just absolutely love this little coffee mug. And this is a very, very cold, slightly dreary Sunday morning. It is also our New Year. I am Tamilian and Hindu, and so we are actually celebrating our New Year today. Unfortunately, due to outside circumstances, I was not able to go to the temple to join with my family today, and so therefore I am staying home with the cats. For those who don't know, I do have two cats. There's one right there. Can you see her? Let's see. There she is, the little black lump over there. In fact, let me go bring her. Bells, you want to come say hi? My feistier one. She's my feistier baby. Yes, yes. This is Looney Tunes. Say hi, Bells. Say hi, Babush. Push me, gosh. This is Bella Luna. Okay. Sorry. I'm sorry. Yes? Do you want to say hi to him? And this is our little Minerva Turkle. This is our little Minerva. Say hi, baby. Say hi, baby. So I'm hanging out with the babies today. And we are going to finish Good Girl, Bad Blood. And so I thought I would take you along on the journey. Let me just take a moment. I am at chapter 27 in the book that translates to page 274 out of 397. So 397 pages in the book total, 401 including the acknowledgments. And I am on page 274 in chapter 27. And I have to pick a bone. I have to, because I think the story is written beautifully. I think it's very, very well done. I absolutely love Hallie Jackson's writing style, and she never stops surprising me. I feel like characters that you wouldn't think are going to be a cause of concern or a possible murder suspect end up being suspects. And so that's always fascinating, and I think the way she tells the story is great. But why is it that any book that has to deal with high school murder, trauma, all this stuff always showcases the drugs? Why? Why can't they just not be drug dealers and caught up in like this big drug scheming ring? And just, it's so much. I feel like, honestly, I think she does a great job of bringing that issue up. I do think it's something that is very commonly seen nowadays, especially in high school and things like that. And I personally went to a school that was one of the top in the country. And so I was in one of the richest, one of the best ranked schools in the country, but I have heard some things about the parties, and I've seen some things when I went to a few parties as well. And I feel like young age drinking and, smoking weed and things like that has become very common now, and I'm not judging anyone for it, but I just find it really interesting that it's always a central plot point to these books. And I find it very fascinating that in the first book, we were obviously dealing with the fact that Andy Bell was in fact not only buying drugs but also supplying them. She was essentially selling drugs in order to make her money, which obviously is what got her into trouble and eventually murdered. She is also shown to be this horrible human being who was obviously, trying to seduce her teacher who had just lost his wife. And so you have, pedophilia concepts there. You have, adults in responsible positions taking advantage of students in worse, younger positions who are not like fully mature and fully developed yet. You also have, of course, the fact that she is the cause of her sister getting raped that party night because she sold Rohypnol to someone. Like, what did she think was going to happen? I don't understand. Like, if she's so selfish that she doesn't understand that if you sell a male a Rohypnol or something along the lines of Rohypnol, if you're selling someone a date rape drug, what do you think is going to happen? And so it's like very fascinating to me because I think Sal's character, which is obviously who they're trying to prove as being innocent because he was framed for being the cause of Andy's death, was just so overwhelming. And it was just like, to find out that everyone is literally treating the Singh family as horribly as they did for 5 years, with this conviction that he did it because he's the boyfriend and he's brown. And that too with circumstantial evidence, and a lot of it being false because his so-called friends literally put him in a position where he was charged with murder. It's just absolutely astonishing to me. And they're protecting a girl who was essentially the she-devil. You know what I mean? Like, definitely came from a broken home, definitely like has a lot of reasons as to why she was the way she was. But it's just like mind-boggling to me. And I think the way that Holly Jackson does it, where she does it in a way where it's definitely evident that these issues are at play, but in a way where it's subtle, so it's not so in your face and it doesn't make you feel so creeped out. Kind of like, you know, my issue with None of This Is True is the fact that that book, it by Lisa Jewell, it definitely is very well written as well, but the concepts of pedophilia and grooming and abuse and all those things are so in your face. It was overwhelming. Like, I personally couldn't handle it, right? Which is why I think this Holly Jackson series is a little bit better, but these are very advanced concepts for young adult books. And so I'm like intrigued. I can see why everyone loves these books because there's so much like intrigue to them, and there's so much, you know, social commentary in these. I mean, she deals with concepts like racism and, you know, pedophilia, like I just talked about, or we talk about, you know, the fact that authoritative people are taking advantage of younger people. We talk about, or she talks, not we, she talks about, you know, like the drug issue that's prominent in a lot of high school settings and how that could potentially affect characters in the book. It's just so fascinating, and especially because you feel like a lot of these kids, when they get involved in these things, they don't realize the repercussions of some of the things they do, or like some of the characters that they're dealing with. And it was just, it's very, very well written is all I'm trying to say. I'm really enjoying the series. I'm really, 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 really enjoying the series. I think the way she throws a curveball at you is just genius. I just don't know if this feels young adult to me. I don't know. I feel like some of the topics in this book don't feel very young adult, but it's so good. So good. So that being said, I have an hour and 9 minutes left of this book. So I'm going to keep reading / listening to this. Also, I know I talked about like accessories the other day in one of my episodes as well, but these are the headphones that I'm using today. I have 3 total headphones. So I have this, I have my AirPods, which I usually like to wear whenever I am going for a walk or exercising, which, let's be honest, in my case is quite rare. I do try to do at least 2-mile walk every day. So that's kind of like where I get my exercise from. And then my job is very physically involved because I am in medicine. And so I am constantly moving to see my patients and squatting and all that kind of stuff while doing their exams and their care. So there's that. But I really need to get back into like actual workouts. I'm thinking I want to try Pilates. I did invest in a Pilates bar, and I used to love doing yoga, and I used to dance. So I really want to try and get back to those, but that's neither here nor there. So anyways, the point was that I have 3 pairs of headphones. I have these, I have my AirPod Maxes, and then I also have my AirPod Pros. So my AirPod Pros I usually save for like when I'm at the gym or going for a walk. My AirPod Maxes I usually use when I'm editing on my computer or if I'm listening to something on my computer. And then these are my go-tos for when I'm listening to Audible or if I feel like overhead headphones when I'm going for my walk and stuff. So the plan as of today is to try and get through Good Girl, Bad Blood and then also finish As Good as Dead. So I can finish off the series today, and then I'll come back to you guys with wrap-ups as we go. I don't know why. I'm sorry. So I was just at the scene where the news report had broken, saying that there was a body that had been found, and everyone assumed that it was Jamie. And so Pip rushes over to Connor's home, of course, to be there with the family, and just the way that the family reacted to her presence. The fact that, Connor immediately sees her and is just like, looking to her for leadership, and then she walks in and she sees Joanna on the couch. And all she does is literally open up her arm to Pip and like welcome her in this moment of possible devastation and grief, to say like, thank you for trying to find my little boy, and let's pray together that it's not him. And then Arthur, who's been so removed from this whole situation this entire time, suddenly showing emotion. And when they announce that it wasn't Jamie's body that was found, the sheer raw emotional experience Arthur goes through when he finally cracks and shows how much worry he actually has for his son, while half of the podcast listeners believe that it was him who killed his son. I don't know. That whole scene for me was just very overwhelming. Anyway. Okay, let me catch you up to where I am now. This book, I swear to God, is just going to keep throwing punches at me. That kind of feels like a Sarah J. Maas book in the sense that the last 100 pages, they just throw everything into the last 100 pages. Max are Rohypnol, drugging, possible cause of murder, which luckily turned out to be just paralysis of a man for life, threatening his friends. Max just got off on all charges. I don't even have words. Like, I think the fact that Pip is just losing herself over this makes sense. Max Hastings not guilty. Like, what? And the fact that they don't want to believe Nat Da Silva and Becca Bell when they literally have the medical background saying how Rohypnol just makes you feel like you're detached from your body and you don't know what's happening. Pip herself having gone through this and having a physical recording with Max accepting that he did all these things. Wow. Just wow. I don't know why I'm reacting like this. And when I did promise to film my reactions, Pip just told Nat about the verdict from Max Hastings' trial, and that poor girl, after being bullied by Andy throughout high school just for being pretty, to having to go through such a horrible experience, to going through that experience in the courtroom where she had to testify against Max and she was ripped apart, shredded, where she literally lost her entire future because she stood up to a bully in college who reminded her of Andy. And now this, the fact that she's so prickly and so strong and never wants to show emotion because she's hurting so much. And she hates Pip. And for Pip and Nat to be the ones together when this news was broken, and the fact that she just leaned into Pip. My heart broke for Nat. And for Becca.
I really hope Max Hastings gets his. I'm sure he will. I don't think Holly Jackson would leave us hanging, but he shouldn't be allowed to walk free. Not after everything he's done. Almost murdering someone, threatening his friends, causing the entire news to ostracize a family, and that too, his best friend's family, and letting his best friend take the blame for a murder that he shouldn't have ever been accused of committing. To being the cause of so many women being traumatized for their life because he took advantage of them and slipped them the date rape drug. And now he's free of all charges when he literally opened his mouth and accepted his guilt. And Nat falling apart. Wow. Just wow. Okay, I'll come back with you with more news shortly.
All right, guys, so live at you with another update. I am just finishing up with chapter 33, and I have to say, while I don't necessarily agree with what she did, as it is criminal, I do think it's hilarious that Pip decided to take things into her own hand after she got suspended and her best friends just accused her of lying about the fact that one of their best friend's brother is missing. So good times there. I think Aunt and Lauren should really just shove it. But that being said, I do think it's slightly, bad ass, excuse my language, but also slightly inappropriate that Pip decided to just paint "Rapist, I will get you" on the door of Max Hastings' house and then proceed to break every single one of their windows. But hey, I see you, Pip. I see you. Moving on. Okay, so we just got to the part about the serial killer, Child Brunswick, and how that could be a connection to Layla. At this point, I'm kind of confused because I feel like it was thrown left wind out of nowhere. To be quite honest, I don't remember any other referral of Child Brunswick or that conversation, but it sounds like something Luke said when he spotted Jamie when quote-unquote Layla sent him to talk to Luke to try and see if he would react or not. Just very confused. This whole serial killer angle is, I think, coming very left wind. Audible wise, I have about 32 minutes left of listening time, and I'm on page 338. For recap, I'm also listening to this at 3.0 speed. At this point, 397 pages. I'm at 338. So, about 40 pages left in this book. And I just find it very strange that this is coming out left wind, but I'm guessing that it's obviously all connected. So I think these last few pages are going to be very, very nail biting, but very, very curious as to what is going on when they announce that this is the new play in the storyline. All right, I'll be back with more updates soon. Okay. So the conclusion that was just made is that Howie Bowers, who is currently in Osborne Correctional, is the one who knows who Child Brunswick is because apparently they're friends. And it now just got revealed that they think that Child Brunswick is Stanley, who's the racist reporter who basically said that Sal was for sure the one who murdered his girlfriend without getting any proper facts, and supposedly apologized to Pip and everyone else that was involved about what happened. And Pip has always felt weird about him. So maybe she just has killer instincts. I don't know. But yeah, that's where we are. We're at chapter 38 now, about 30 minutes left in the book. And I think I will come back to you guys when I finish the book at this point with final updates. But mind-boggling. All right, I did not expect that twist at all. First off, with the whole serial killer angle, and then secondarily with Stanley being the center of this entire story plot. But we'll see where we go. All right. Catch up with you soon. Stanley just passed. Murdered for something that he didn't have anything to do with. By a horrible man who manipulated a lost kid. And then was willing to murder someone else as well. For the sake of avenging his sister. It's really interesting how Holly Jackson has this way of creating every character
with so much backstory that you can almost understand why they do the horrible things they do, but you also can't forgive them. Charlie Green, I really hope he gets caught along with his wife or whatever she is. I'm thankful that Jamie has been found now and is alive. I think it's horrible that Stanley has died, and I really hope that the police team do start taking Pip seriously. I'm a little nervous to read the third book, just given how intense this book has gotten. This is like, if A Good Girl's Guide to Murder was like between a scale of 1 to 10 in terms of intensity, it was probably like a 4 to 5. This book is like hardcore 8 for me. I have cried during this book, which I didn't do during the first one. This book has brought out so much intense emotion in me. But it's great. I have exactly 6 minutes left to finish this book, so I will come back to you guys with my final thoughts on this book. But so far, it's definitely intense, for sure. So I just finished Good Girl, Bad Blood, and this is definitely a 5-star read for me, guys. Like, hardcore 5-star read. Lots of trigger warnings, lots of intense scenes. Loved it. Loved every second of it. I cried, I laughed, I yelled, I screamed. I felt every emotion that Pip was feeling. I love Ravi and I love Kara. I think they're amazing. I appreciate Connor. I think Ant and Lauren are awful, and I really hope that they are miserable with the horrifying knowledge that they are awful people, and they basically turned on their friends when they needed them the most. Yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at. I think if I was still a kid and I had any violent inclination at all, I would have punched Ant in the face, just like Pip did, or gone for his throat, just like Pip did. But, you know, at the end of the day, we're not violent. We're not into condoning violence here in my household or in my life. So maybe a good, strong telling off is what I would have done. Nat Da Silva, it's so nice to hear that she's finally smiling in this book. I really hope Max Hastings gets his at some point, given the fact that he walked out of that trial with all charges dropped after he had successfully raped multiple women and had almost killed a man, which they can't actually charge him with because it would then cost Kara her only other family member who is not either in jail or dead that loves her outside of her grandparents, which is her sister and her only normalcy. It's just such a twisted up tangle of webs and lies and craziness that's happening in these stories, and I am here for them. So I can understand why everybody loves these books. I can understand why everyone is raving about them, and I definitely think it's a hardcore great read. Obviously, lots of spoilers were shared here, so I really hope if you are reading this, you are someone who either doesn't mind hearing spoilers or you're someone who has already read these books and is just here to hear my thoughts and hopefully share your thoughts in the comments as well. But yeah, blew my mind. I think the first book, A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, is a lot more mellow compared to this one, which is saying something because that one tackled some very interesting topics too. But I definitely think this one was much better for me personally. Hey guys, wanted to do my first check-in as I've started reading As Good as Dead. These are the reading glasses from Pear, by the way, and I have on my red frames. These are not blue light equipped, so I have a separate pair that I use for whenever I'm on my computer or my phone. But I'm very early on in this book. I'm only on page 30 at this point, and I just had to share my thoughts because already we see that Pip is unraveling. Obviously, we left her in the last book in a position where she had literally just seen a murder committed in front of her eyes. She understands the perspective of the murderer as well as the murdered. The murdered is someone that she was slowly starting to be comfortable with and around, and she was finally understanding his background and the fact that he was showing true remorse for what he had done as a reporter in the first book with how he had treated Sal Singh. And now we're in a position where basically she is facing the facts that Charlie Green was the one who put her on the path to basically bring Stanley to justice and to figure out what happened to Jamie. And so she's like thankful for him as well, and also contemplating the fact that if someone had done what happened to Charlie's younger sister to her own brother Josh,
Like, she understands why someone would have a vendetta where they'd want to chase this person down and essentially take justice into their own hands. So she's obviously of two minds. She keeps hearing the gunshots in her ear. She's also being taken to court by Max Hastings for libel. And at this point, her doctor has taken her off of her medications. She's facing PTSD because she feels like there's similarities between her and Charlie Green, and she doesn't know how to face it, doesn't know how to talk about it. And so now she herself is buying illicit drugs, and she's getting Xanax from Luke, whom we met in the last book. I do apologize. My cat is deciding to play with our camera. Here, come here, Minnie. Come here, baby. Hi, Papush. Hey, sweet girl. Yes. Who's mommy's princess? Who's mommy's princess? Yes. Look at you, little furball. My little furball. Let's leave mommy's glasses alone. Come here. Yeah, you want to go under mommy's legs? Let's not show the nice people your butt. Good girl. Yes, my good girl. Sorry, she's just in the mood today. So now she's buying Xanax from Luke, and it's very interesting to see this new development where she literally went from quote unquote being a good girl to now being this character who is slowly unraveling and falling apart. So I'm very curious to see how dark and twisted this book gets, considering the fact that the first book was dark and twisted, the second book was even more dark and twisted, and now we're already starting off this book with a girl who was completely against drugs, completely against everything that's been happening in this town, had a certain level of disgust for Andy and Luke, and Howie is now in a position herself where she is looking for drugs in order to just even fall asleep. So that's where I'm at with this book so far. I just thought I would check in and give you guys my thoughts, because I did promise to give updates based on any reactions. Hey guys, okay, so at this point it's around 8 o'clock at night. Today's Monday, so it was a work day. Ended up listening to a little bit of the Audible on my phone while I was driving today of As Good as Dead. So I'm on chapter 11. We have about 4 hours left on the Audible, and I now have the physical copy with me. I am thinking that I'm going to sit down and start reading a little bit and film some of my thoughts and reactions. And of course, as always, did want to announce again that this does have spoilers. So far at this point, Pip has, as we saw earlier, been on Xanax that she's been getting from Luke, because he is now the high dog in terms of all of the drug sales within the Fairview area. She is also hiding all of this from Ravi and her parents, of course. And on top of that, she just got sued by Max Hastings for libel. So that's kind of where we had left off. Now it's kind of following the fact that, you know, these chalk figures have been showing up on her doorstep. Jason Bell and Max Hastings just got into an altercation at the coffee shop, which Kara saw and reported back to Pip, and was kind of the talk of the town right now in terms of their interaction at the coffee shop. And then she has found a little bit of duct tape on her shoe, and she noticed that there were 2 pigeons that were dead that were left behind on her front porch. She tried reporting it to Hastings per Ravi's recommendation, and they, as expected, did absolutely nothing about it, and Hastings basically said it was all in her head. So that's kind of where I'm at in the book.
Yeah, I'll get back to you guys as we go. So here we go.
Okay. I really hate Ant and Lauren. Like, seriously, you guys made out once and you're now in a relationship, and you think it's okay to tell your best friend that he's making it up that his brother has disappeared and been kidnapped. You then tell your best friend, who helped solve a double murder and also is looking for your best friend's brother, that she's insane and basically doing it for money, you get proven wrong, and then your go-to response to her when you see her for the first time after that incident is to tell her that she's gone crazy and that he deserved to die. I really have no respect for Aunt and Lauren. I didn't before. I especially don't now. I think they're horrible, horrible kids. And honestly, there's a lot of excuses that can be made for teenagers, but these are 18-year-olds about to go to college. Is this really how you want to behave? This is the bully you want to be for the rest of your life? And you're pretending for who? Your special, questionable girlfriend who literally just used to follow the other two around and was quote unquote one of their best friends. And both of them came over to hold her while she was sobbing about a guy she'd broken up with in the first book. And you're going to turn around and call her insane and treat her like that. Spectacular, Aunt and Lauren, spectacular. I will say, while these characters are very well written, I do have a bone to pick with Holly Jackson because I don't understand why they had to turn so cruel, and I don't understand why they needed Pip to feel so lonely and isolated, given the fact that they were all best friends. Like, I get getting jealous. I understand, like, not understanding why she's suddenly so popular and she has all of these followers and she's constantly in the middle of drama and all of that. But I don't understand how you write a character going from that much history and that much friendship to where they are now. But the character that doesn't turn is Kara. Kara, whose father she literally put in jail, who's already lost her mother. And now she knows the deepest, darkest secret about her sister. It's a very intriguing game that Holly Jackson is playing here. I'm all here for it. I'm very curious to see where it goes. And obviously Pip has gotten a little bit intense, but it just seems like a lot, like unnecessarily a lot. All right, I'll check back in a bit.
Hey guys, just got to chapter 26 in As Good as Dead. I'm so sorry. It's almost midnight here, so I do apologize for the lighting as well and for the quiet talking because my husband's asleep. And this one over here wants some camera attention apparently. Hi. Hello. How can we help you? So she's hardcore needy. Yes, princess. What can I do for you? But that being said, essentially Pip just got kidnapped and she thinks currently that Daniel De Silva is the one who is most likely the correct DT killer and that the wrong person was put in jail and that he is the one who has been drawing the chalk figures outside of her home, basically indicating that he'll be targeting her next. And so she believes that it's Nat De Silva's brother. She's really going for it. Yeah, Bella. You making biscuits? You making biscuits, baby? Anyways, I'm not fully convinced that it is Daniel De Silva. I feel like he's just too convenient, so I'm sure it's going to be revealed that it's someone else. But I don't know who it is yet. But I will catch you tomorrow. We have about 2 hours left in the book, and so we will finish it up tomorrow and get back to you with final reviews. And as you can see, my yawn tears are starting to come out, so I'm going to head to bed. Good night. Bye, guys.
Hey guys, as you can see, in full work gear right now, but I just wanted to say as a quick update, listening to Audible while I'm working today in between patient drives, and at this point Pip has discovered that Jason Bell is in fact the DT killer and has successfully now escaped and murdered him and is trying to figure out what to do next. So that's where we're at. Thoughts on this? Totally support her in her escape. I think all of that was very well done. I understand her suspicion of the cops. I do find it unfortunate that a teenage girl has to take it into her own hands to murder this man and now has to bring her boyfriend into it as well. So we'll see where this goes now, but Jason Bell is officially the DT killer and has been successfully murdered by Pip. It was a little anticlimactic when she killed him with just the thunks to the head. I kind of wish he had been looking at her when she did it. I think it would have been more poetic justice for him to know how this happened and who did it. But, you know, you take what you get. And she's an 18-year-old who's scared and just trying to protect herself and prevent this from happening to anybody else. So I understand why it happened the way it did. But, yeah. All right. I'll get back to you soon.
Can't wait to be what you've been calling me. You can't wait on their affirmation. You can't wait on their approval. You can't wait on their support. Sometimes you just got to run and look behind you and say, everybody who wants to run, run, but I can't stop running because you're not running with me. Listen to me, hear me. You can't stop chasing your dream just because somebody in your life won't chase it with you. You can't stop believing in yourself just because somebody in your life won't believe in you. You can't stop chasing the dreams of your life just because when you know when you do it, you're going to have to do it all by yourself.
We have officially completed this book. Okay, guys, so in the span of the past 4 or 5 days, we have successfully managed to finish all 3 books in the series, A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. You guys obviously saw some of my reactions here and there. This book just finished out, and it ended on the very, very last note with the epilogue where Ravi texts Pip a year and 7 months after Max has officially been convicted for the murder of Jason Bell. Words fail me a little bit right now to try and describe these 3 books. So I will say A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, I think, was very, very well written. And I also thought it was very entertaining and plausible. I think that's the word that's most valid here. If you're reading these books and you're thinking to yourself, hey, I want some entertainment value, I want to enjoy this, then absolutely great read. If you're looking for something that seems even a little bit realistic, I don't know. I would say Holly Jackson is a master of spinning a story. I think the way she plots her characters, her twists, her storylines are phenomenal. In the first book, with The Good Girl's Guide to Murder, I think it made sense. Where the book led and where it ended made complete sense. In the sense that Elliot Ward being the murderer who was manipulated by Andy because of the simple fact that he had lost his wife, he was in a horrible position, making it as an excuse so that he could say that, oh, this is on Andy, and somehow find a way to blame her, and then immediately turn around and think to himself, well, I have to protect my kids. I need someone to take the fall. So therefore, I'm going to blame this kid because I have dirt on Max, my own daughter, and some of their friends in order to create an alibi. In order to create a lie that would force Sal to not have an alibi and then proceed to murder him. I think it was also very interesting to see how his character basically still had some sense of good in him because he didn't try to attack Pip when she finally confronts him. Like, he just accepts that it's coming to a close and he would never harm her because she's basically like another daughter to him. I think it was also very fascinating to see how he tried to convince her that Andy was the one at fault, which I found very interesting. I was like, yeah, no, that doesn't make any sense, Elliot. You're literally the adult in this situation, so that doesn't make sense. But it was fascinating to see him try to play that card. And then I think the other thing that was heartbreaking is the way that he admits that he's the one that killed Sal, but he did it in a way where he tried to make it as peaceful as possible for him. There was just something so heartbreaking in that moment. And I remember I did shed some tears. I don't think I actually got a chance to record that moment. And then in Becca's case as well, confronting her sister, because this horrible thing happened to her in a home that has been absolutely horrible, especially as we get into book 3, which I'm not quite there yet. But in terms of like just the trauma that poor girl has gone through at the hands of her sister, at the hands of her father, and then to be in a position where her sister almost blames her and like pushes her away and doesn't want to take any responsibility for the situation that Becca was in, I understand why she snapped. I think it was also really interesting to see the relationship that Pip and Becca form after the fact, even though Becca at one point does try to murder Pip as well in order to protect herself from being found as the actual killer of Andy Bell. So overall, the way that the first book progressed, the way that the podcasts were made was absolutely phenomenal. The second book, I think, with Jamie Reynolds missing, that one was, I think, a little bit more, again, plausible as well. I think it was a slower book in general. I think a lot of the aspects of, hey, where is Jamie and all this other stuff was very interesting, but I wouldn't say that it really picked up until the whole Child Brunswick thing was introduced. And the thing is, that is showing up so late in the book that it was almost like a jump to say that, hey, this is actually a serial killer's son, and he was involved in picking out the children that his father killed. Therefore, there are communities of people looking for him to murder, and he just happens to be Stanley, who's the reporter at your town, which is why he kidnapped Jamie, because Jamie was sent to find him by this man who's faking being a woman as a profile stalker, who convinces him to commit murder and then ends up coming himself, shooting this man in your face, burning the house you're standing in, expecting you to run away. Plausibility, again, a little shaky on that. But okay, at least some of the concepts and some of the ideas you can follow along with, and you can say, okay, I could potentially see a 17-year-old putting themselves in this situation. Absolutely ludicrous and highly out there, but maybe plausible. And then you get to the third book, where this girl is literally trying to figure out what's going on, dealing with the awful, awful realization that all of these horrible things have happened around her. She's lost two of her best friends who have basically decided that she's crazy because she thought that this guy has actually been missing, and they think another one of their best friends and their parents are completely distraught and missing the fact that this older brother is gone, and saying that they're making up the whole thing. I think the way that she snaps at Ant and Lauren makes complete sense. I think Ant and Lauren are the most awful characters in the entire series. And we're dealing with a series with a bunch of murderers, rapists, serial killers, kids of serial killers, like people looking for revenge killings. And yet somehow Ant and Lauren are the biggest antagonists in this entire series for me. Like, how do you turn on your best friends like that? People you've known since you were a child. Someone you have known to be someone who sniffs out a bone like a dog on the hunt. Like, you're literally going to turn around and call them crazy? Like, okay. So I think Ant and Lauren definitely need to grow up a little bit, and I really would have loved to see them apologize at the end of this book, but we didn't get that scene. So I guess that is what it is. But horrible, horrible characters. To see that life just kind of start crumbling in front of her, feeling herself absolutely lose it, being on Xanax, buying them from the local drug dealer who you literally tried to put in jail the previous book. Like, now you're having burner phones and talking to him and trying to take all these Xanaxes. Meanwhile, you can see yourself getting stalked, and suddenly there's a serial killer, and then now you're, in a position where you're kidnapped by that serial killer, and now you're murdering that serial killer. And then you and your boyfriend, who are both 18, literally figure out how to stage the death of the body by changing the temperature at which the body is sitting and then rethawing so that the coroners think that he died at a certain time. And the forensic anthropologists who have been doing this for years assume that this happened at a certain time. And the fact that you left actual evidence behind, and both of you come up with excuses to create alibis and find ways to save each other, and then somehow decide that the only way that this is all going to play out, even though you have successfully set up someone else for the fall, someone else who, by the way, is older than you, richer than you, and in a situation where you literally roofied him, and that never comes up. They never test for the drug or anything like that. It's just mind-boggling to me that at the end of the book, the only way that she could surmise that they would all be safe is for her to cut herself off from her friends and her boyfriend when they were her primary alibi and support system through this whole thing, until Max Hastings is put in jail. I don't even know what to say about this third book. I would say it was a 4-star read for me. Very good, very interesting, very fun read for sure. It definitely keeps you on the edge of the seat. It's like go, go, go from the beginning of the book. You definitely see Pip's character growth in just all kinds of ways, not necessarily in good ways at that, but like you can just see her trust completely fall apart. You can see her complete lackluster faith in authority figures and cops and all the people that are supposed to be taking care of her. I mean, I think in general, this book was just a lot. I do love the fact that Max Hastings does go down for the crime. I think the way that's done was brilliant. I think the fact that they were able to put so many circumstantial events together that would point to him was also very brilliant. And then somehow planting the evidence on him was really interesting. I just don't know how realistic it is. I do love the fact that immediately after the trial has been aired, the first thing that Ravi does is reach out to Pip. And I really hope they get their happily ever after, since we don't get to see any more books from Pip and Ravi's perspective. A little novella that's hopefully a positive novella, just kind of showing that all of them are friends again and everyone's good and no family members, parents, or teachers are serial killers would be great. But, you know, I really liked that. I think that little note at the end where you just get that one clip of a little text message from Ravi asking her if she remembers him is, I think, brilliant and a beautiful way to end the book. I think the love between those two characters and those best friends and the families are just phenomenal. So yeah, solid 4 stars for that book. I would say Good Girl, Bad Blood was honestly probably a solid 4.5 to 4.75 stars for me, even though I did say the beginning was slow and I did find some of the ending a little far-fetched, but still a little bit more plausible. I think it was still a very good book. I thoroughly enjoyed just the emotions and the moods that book pulled out of me. I have a lot of clips of me just bawling because of certain scenes in that book, and just the raw pain that you see in characters like Nat, and you know, just how cruel people like Matt Hastings could be. I think the way the characters are developed, it's kind of like reading about Professor Umbridge in Harry Potter. It's like she's written so well because you hate her that much. You know what I mean? It's like those type of character developments and just feeling for Becca and feeling for Nat. Like, it's just beautifully done. But I would say A Good Girl's Guide to Murder was probably my favorite of the series. I think it was very well written. I think it was fun. I had originally given it a 4-star. Sorry, guys. I had originally given it a 4-star, but I would say at this point I would probably give it a 5-star, just because I do think that one is something that I would think about. I do think this is a series I would recommend to a lot of different people who are looking good for like a quick, fun thriller series, young adult book series. Overall, I think it was a great read. But altogether, I would probably rate the series at about a 4.5 stars for me overall. And I would say that it is a series I would recommend to other people. I really did enjoy the series overall. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey as I decided to tackle the A Good Girl's Guide to Murder series during the course of this week. And thank you so much for tuning in to all of my spoilers and my reactions. I had a great time. I hope you guys had a great time. And if you haven't read the series yet, I hope you didn't watch this because I basically ruined the whole series for you just now. But if you have read the series before and you're watching, definitely let me know what you guys thought of the books in the comment sections below. I would just love to know other people's reactions, if they had similar reactions to me, or if they kind of figured out the twists before they were even coming. I will say, I think knowing Jason Bell was the DT killer was something I saw coming, because when she said it was Daniel, I just didn't see that one as being accurate. And I just felt like Jason was too awful of a character to not be involved in something more sinister. But I do think it was fun how she blamed it on Max, and that I didn't see coming until they started plotting. But overall, great series, had a great time, and I'm so glad you guys were able to join me. All right, I'll catch you on the next one. Bye.